What's up, kids? Eric here. Today is Sunday, June 7th. We're already a week into June. And I can't wait till one day we can all be here in the church together and we can get to play games again. We can do crafts together. We still gotta wait a while, and I still plan on doing these videos for you so that you're able to at least watch the Bible lesson each week, watch the videos, and have like all the crafts and the fun stuff you can do. So in the meantime, we'll be sticking to that. So, where are we in the lesson? We've been learning the last few weeks about Abraham and God's promise to Abraham. Remember a few weeks ago, God promised to Abraham, if you do these things I'm asking you to do, I will bless your family, your children, your children's children, and eventually set up a nation that's gonna be my people. And then eventually from that, I'm going to bless the world, which we know eventually is Jesus Christ. Comes from that family line. So Abraham ends up having Isaac, yay! And then Isaac, as we learned last week, met Rebecca, and they got married, and then here we are in the story, and they haven't had any kids, but they've been married for a while. And so Isaac does what we should all do anytime that, we're not sure about something, we're confused about something, things don't seem right. He prays to God. And Isaac says, Lord, Rebecca and I don't have any kids, and I know that you promised that that was gonna happen. And so he prays to God, and then Rebecca's pregnant, yeah! With twins, whoa! Not only are they gonna have a kid, they're having two kids right out of the gate. But right away, there's trouble from the get-go. These two boys, it's boys, they're twins, are already fighting in the womb. So Rebecca is pregnant, poor thing, with these two boys, and they're fighting in the womb. And so she goes to God, because she's concerned about that, and says, Lord, I don't know what's going on, I'm concerned. I can tell that my two twins, my babies, are fighting already in the womb. And so God actually tells her a little bit of his plans. She got to hear a little bit of what God's plan was, which is kind of neat. He told her, your two sons are gonna end up as they get older, starting two completely different nations. One of them is gonna be the nation that is promised through Abraham and his line, and then the other one's gonna be a separate one. And he also told her that the oldest is gonna actually serve the younger, which is interesting because it wasn't normally like that back then. So the boys get older, or let me go back real quick. So when they're born, the first one that's born his name is Esau. It's spelled E-S-A-U, but it's pronounced Esau. Sounds weird, huh? Like a donkey is saying it or something. Esau. But there's Esau, and then the second boy that comes out, who's born, is Jacob, right? So Esau is the oldest, and Jacob is the younger, just barely. But anyways, they get older, and then Esau grows up to be a hunter and gatherer. It's what he does. He goes out and he hunts, he gathers food and things, and he brings it back, where Jacob kind of hangs around the house and does housework. He's a shepherd, he doesn't go out and venture. And so Esau, one day when they're older, is coming back from a long day. He's out there, he's tired, he's been gathering and hunting all day. He's tired and he's exhausted and he's really hungry. When you're like, oh, I am so hungry and your stomach's growling at you. He was like that. He comes back, and he came back at the perfect timing, because right then, Jacob is in the house making this amazing stew, like a soup. And Esau comes in, and when you're really, really hungry, and your mom or another family member's making a dinner or something, and the house smells so good and it makes you even more hungry. It was like that. Esau came in, saw he was making the stew, and was like, oh, let me have some of that, Jacob. I am so hungry. And Jacob says, you can have this if you sell me your birthright. Let's stop real quick. Let me explain this whole birthright thing, because it sounds kind of confusing. You see, back then, the birthright was the eldest born inherited more of the family's things when the family dies. So in other words, the eldest son has the birthright. So when their father passes away, all of his belongings, his animals, his land, his money, all of that, or double of it, double portion, I should say, would go to the eldest. So the eldest gets the most of all of that. And then the younger kids would get, whatever's left over. So being the birthright means you get more things back then from your parents when they pass away. But this isn't a normal birthright. This birthright for them is even bigger because it's also tied to God's promise to Abraham. So the eldest has the birthright, and he was the one who was going to end up starting the nation that would be what we know later on as the nation of Israel, that is God's chosen people. So this birthright is huge. And here we are, Jacob's making this stew, and Esau's hungry. He's just thinking of his stomach. It's all he's thinking of. And when Jacob says, hey, sell me your birthright and you can have this, Esau said, yeah, you can have the birthright, just give me that soup. Now, that has to be the most expensive soup ever. I mean, think about it. He's giving up his birthright for not just a majority of the belongings from his father, Isaac, he's also giving up the birthright to starting God's chosen people and that nation. It's huge, and that's what happened. And so Jacob ended up pretty much stealing the birthright from him, but he gave it up in a way too, Esau did. And so we're gonna learn a lot more next week about Jacob and Esau, because these guys they're always fighting back and forth, unfortunately. But the end of this story is Isaac is a little bit concerned because all this weird stuff's going on. Hey, my oldest son is giving up the birthright to my younger son. And so he's concerned, and he brings those concerns to the Lord our God. And God says to him, hey, my promise to Abraham, your father, is gonna stay. It's not going away. Your father did all the things I asked him to, so I'm gonna hold up to my side of the bargain. So he was reassuring and making sure that Isaac knew things don't look exactly how you thought they might be, but my promise stands. And from this lesson, it's much like last week. We know that God's plans always happen, and his promises to us always happen too. And it's good for us to hold on to that and remember that, because sometimes this world, there's sad things and bad things that happen, but God always is there for us. And the same question I asked last week was, God's plans are always there. Our question to ourselves that we need to ask is, do we want to be a part of God's plans or not be a part of God and his plans? And that's the choice that he gave us. So that's the story for this week. Next week, like I told you, we're getting more into Jacob and Esau because there's more to it with those guys. Those brothers are always like fighting and stuff. So we have the coloring sheet of the week here's Isaac, and it's him looking up into the stars because God promised him, he said, hey, just like I told your dad Abraham, you're gonna have as many kids as this nation will be as many as the stars in the sky. So basically, he's like, look up. You're gonna have tons and tons of kids. And then we have, this is kind of cool. This activity sheet is called Friendly Reminders. And you're supposed to draw pictures or write, if you know how to write yet, but pictures work well too, of things that remind you of some of the promises that God has made. There's been a lot of promises we've talked about. There's that promise with Abraham, the promise that goes with Isaac as well. Remember, there was the promise to Noah. God sent the rainbow and said, I'm not gonna flood the earth again. There's lots of promises. So you can come up with a lot of promises on there. There's another one we know of which already came true, and that's Jesus Christ. So there's a ton of them on there. Robin came back with another craft. Woo! So we got craft again, which is awesome. And look at this cool little hanging thing. I love it. It says, God is faithful, he keeps his promises. Because that's the theme of this part of Genesis, is God keeps his promises. And so she has the video. You look down in the description below, there's a link to her YouTube video, which will show you how to make this. One thing I know you will need, which is gonna be also down below in the Dropbox link, is this template that you can print out and you can cut it out. And all the other directions on what you need to do with it will be in her video, so you can watch that. Also the story for this week, the video for it, is also in the Dropbox down below as always. So I miss you guys. Hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Sunday. Take it easy. Bye-bye.